Welcome to The Wealthy and Wise, where we answer your questions on protecting and growing your wealth. Deidre, you know, we're comprehensive planners. At Barron Financial Group, people come to us and they want us to, maybe they're focused on their investments, maybe they're focused on some aspect of their financial life. And always throughout our process, at one point or another, we get to the estate planning. Do you have any estate planning documents? And I continue to be amazed at how many people either don't have them, don't understand why they need them, or just simply don't even want to address that or go there. And I guess I'd like to just talk to you, first of all, about what is estate planning and why do you need it?
Well, I think one of the interesting things that you said first is people say they don't have an estate plan. Well, everybody has an estate plan. If you pass away, the state that you live in, here we're in New Jersey, will be delighted to tell you who gets your money, how they get your money, and if New Jersey can get a nice share of your money. So everybody has an estate plan. When we're talking to clients, what we're talking about is you have the ability, by making a will, to choose who gets your money, to choose whether or not New Jersey is among the people that get your money, is the IRS among the people that get your money, and to choose how people are going to be inheriting money. And I think once you start talking to people that what doing an estate plan does is it empowers them, it gets them over that fear question, it gets them over the point of saying, I don't want to deal with this isn't something that I'm interested in at all, because I think everybody's interested in making decisions about where their money goes.
Sure, sure. And of course, that's the most, one aspect of estate planning. And I think most people think when you talk about estate planning that you're strictly talking about putting together a will. But as you know, and even it's interesting because I was thinking about as you're talking, that you also have a estate plan when it comes to how your health care is going to be taken care of, who's going to be in charge of your assets if you're not capable of being in charge. And that's always a concern to me. Sometimes it's not, I don't even care about the transfer of the assets. I'm like more concerned about who's going to make decisions about you when you're sitting there on the hospital bed and you can't make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're talking about them, when we talk to people about an estate plan, there's three overall questions. What kind of money do you have from pure numbers amount, because that's going to get to taxes. And we need to talk about taxes because that drives a lot of an estate plan. The second thing is, who are you planning on leaving the money to? Who are you concerned about? Is it a spouse? Is it children? Maybe you have an older parent that's dependent on you that you need to be concerned about. Maybe you have a business with employees and you need to make sure that your business is going to be able to be maintained. And then the last thing that you need to talk about is, okay, well, if we've made all these decisions, by definition, you're not here to carry out the decisions. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about death, dying, and disability. So who's the person who's going to be right, or the group of persons that's going to be right in your situation to carry out all the decisions that we're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And now you brought up taxes, and taxes are actually an interesting thing because a lot of times I get a pushback. Well, first of all, I'm leaving everything to my spouse. I'm leaving everything to my wife, my husband. There's not going to be any taxes. Or I don't have $5 million. I mean, now, the exemption is so high. I don't have $5 million, so I shouldn't have to worry about taxes.
No, you always have to worry about taxes. I'm a tax attorney. This is what I do. The way that you need to consider taxes, there's three things that you need to look at. What's the amount of assets that I have? Where do I live, and who do I want to leave my money to? Now, you mentioned there's this $5 million exemption. Well, for 2 years, there's a $5 million exemption. There's a gift tax sale, an estate tax sale. You can leave $5 million to somebody without paying any taxes. Married couples can leave $10 million. The problem with this law is that it's only supposed to be good for 2011 and 2012. Now, we have a video spotlight that we've done that you can get to through our website at thewealthyandwise.com and find out more information about this. But it's not only federal taxes, it's state taxes. We live in New Jersey. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody who lives in New Jersey that it's the most expensive state to live and die in. In New Jersey, you can only leave $675,000 to somebody without paying taxes, other than a spouse. Very different from the $5 million. And even if you don't live in New Jersey, because the federal exemption is supposed to go back to $1 million in 2013, unless you're planning on passing away in the next 2 years, there's no guarantee that you can take advantage of that. So what you need to do from a planning perspective is to look at not only today, but to look at what's going to happen down the road to make sure that the government's getting their fair minimum of what your estate is.
Interesting. We had a situation fairly recently where a client came to us and she has special needs children, and she had just gone to an estate attorney. She actually had developed special need trusts a long time ago, and she went to an estate attorney who was only focused on tax, and he was pretty much, his recommendation was going to destroy her special needs issues.
Right.
And I guess I'm curious on how you would address that, because I mean, of course there's priorities, and that's why working with a planner, I think sometimes in understanding what the priorities are and working with the attorney and actually having a whole team to get that all nailed down is so important.
It's critical. You have to have a team, because we're looking at it from the perspective of what are your goals. Now, one of your goals may be to reduce taxes, but you may have lots of other goals. Let's say it's a second marriage. You may want to divide your estate in some way. Again, let's say you have a family business and one of your children is going to go into the business and 3 of your children aren't. You may not have the most tax advantage estate scheme, but the key thing is that your assets are going to who it is that you want them to go to. Minimizing the government is really only one aspect of doing that. And the question that you asked then leads me to think about what we talk most about is, how do you leave assets to beneficiaries? You mentioned special needs. That's somebody who maybe can't control their assets. Well, we're going to leave those in a trust and have somebody else do decision making. But sometimes it's not that clear cut. Let's say that you have kids that are 20. Right. Would you leave $500,000 to a 20-year-old? No. Most people would say no to that. But at some point, you're going to maybe want to turn the money over to them when they reach them financial maturity. And that's what goes back to what you said, who's going to be the person in charge of the money? Who's doing that substituted decision-making as a parent? You may have somebody who is a senior in your family that you're responsible for. How do they inherit money? Maybe you don't really like your daughter-in-law or son-in-law. How do you make sure they don't inherit some of your money? And this is something that trusts do. There's lots of different techniques so you can say exactly who gets your money, how they get it, and tax planning is part of that, but it's really not that's the tail that shouldn't be wagging the dog.
Right. And one thing that I do want to say, Deidre, and I know you do it, and I commend you for it, but there are attorneys out there that they'll execute documents, but they don't necessarily make sure that they're followed through. And you need to make sure, because we see this, people walk in with wills that aren't signed. And that's as if you hadn't even done it. Yeah, they have these documents that are all structured, but they're not actually implementing relative to the documents. And so, yeah,
it's very difficult, and that's where working as a team, particularly with a financial advisor, comes into play, because people have lots of different makeup in their assets. You may own real estate, you may have investment accounts, you may have retirement accounts, and those things may need to be titled differently to be able to reach what it is that your goals are. Attorneys, in my opinion, are not the best people in the world to be dealing with all of those titling issues and to be dealing with how it's going to change over time, because let's say somebody does a new retirement account. You need to know what the estate plan is to get the beneficiary designation for the retirement account to work in the plan that the client's already invested in. They're not likely to call their attorney to ask the question. They're likely to call their investment advisor, and you need to make sure there's clear communication between them so that whatever the goals are, they're being met by both people that are on the team. I think that's very important.
Right. And an interesting question, people always ask, how often should I get my estate planning documents done? I had them done 10 years ago. Should I get them done again?
Yes, if it's 10 years, yes, you should get them done again. We suggest that you review your documents every 3 to 5 years. When I say review them, I mean literally get them, read them, and see what they say. Are the people you named as executors, are you still friends with them? Are your kids, maybe have they gotten younger? If they've gotten younger, maybe if your kids gotten older, so they don't need a trust anymore. They got married. You want to leave money to grandchildren. And then your advisor should be letting you know if there's a tax law change or something that's happened that makes those documents, the way they were written, not work anymore. That's all the time, though, that we have for today. We're here at The Wealthy and Wise, where we're here to answer your questions about protecting and growing your wealth. For more information, we encourage you to visit our website at www.thewealthyandwise.com. Don't forget the, you won't get to the right place unless you have it. In that community, what we want to do is we want to be a source to answer your questions. So we encourage you to either leave a comment or to send a question to questions@thewealthyandwise.com so that we know what you're interested in hearing so that we can be talking about it here on our show. Thank you.